That one probably still stings for Pittsburgh fans. Stop me if you've heard this before. The Steelers have to make decisions at quarterback. With Justin Fields and then Russell Wilson, Pittsburgh's season started off well, going 10-3, but the next 5 were rough, capped off by that 28-14 loss to the Ravens. No bueno. Another playoff appearance with no victory to go along with it, and now another long offseason ahead for them. So how do the Steelers find their way back to postseason wins and Super Bowl conversations? Here's Brooke Pryor.
For a second straight year, the Pittsburgh Steelers exited the playoffs with a wild card loss and entered the offseason without a clear starting quarterback. With Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Kyle Allen only under contract through the 2024 season, the Steelers' quarterback cycle is poised to reset again after yet another fruitless revolution.
Stuck is kind of a helpless feeling, and I don't know that I feel helpless.
Steelers owner Art Rooney II said his preference is to sign either Wilson or Fields to a multi-year deal. Both quarterbacks have expressed a desire to return to Pittsburgh, but only one is likely to be in black and gold in 2025.
I think both of them see themselves as starters, and I don't know if they want to share the same job again next year.
But quarterback isn't the only position that faces uncertainty. Running back Najee Harris is set to be a free agent after the team declined his fifth-year option a year ago. And the wide receiver room continues to lack depth behind the talented, yet volatile, George Pickens. Once seemingly on the cusp of breaking a cycle of mediocrity, the Steelers now appear stuck in neutral and no closer to ending a nearly decade-long playoff win drought.
That noise means it is time for some answers with the Fowler Files, as Jeremy Fowler is here. Plus, it seems this morning we have a Mike Tannenbaum folder to go along with these Fowler Files. All right, guys, let's talk about these Steelers, because as Brooke just said, there are some answers to be had, and specifically at the quarterback position. She said that they would like to sign one of these quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, or perhaps Justin Fields, to a long-term contract. What about Russell Wilson? What do you think is going to happen?
Okay, so Russell Wilson is still starting with Pittsburgh. He begins a conversation with loving the Steelers, wanting to go back there. So that is the priority, but he is going to have some options potentially, depending on how the dominoes fall around the league. I'm told he considers the New York Giants a sleeper in all this. They're going to look for a veteran quarterback to potentially pair with the draft pick. And then you got the Las Vegas Raiders. I've talked to some ex-Pete Carroll aides who say that Wilson and Pete Carroll have made amends in recent years. That could be an option as well. Now, Justin Fields, there's definitely a sentiment inside the Steelers building, in some factions of the building, that they'd like to see a reunion here, and that Fields is certainly open to that. But I'm told he does want a real chance to start. He knew when he got traded there before that Russell Wilson was probably the guy. Yeah. He would like a longer runway to be the Steelers quarterback for 17 games, but he'll probably have some options as well.
Okay, and that makes sense, right? He had 5 rushing TDs last year with the Steelers, but wanting a little bit more longevity as a starter makes perfect sense. So let's enter Mike T now into the conversation. You know who's kind of out there, and we've been putting on the Steelers, is Aaron Rodgers. What do you think of that, Mike T?
Yeah, Shay, I think if I'm the Steelers, I don't sign Aaron Rodgers, and I go with Justin Fields, and here's why. He's going to be 26 next month. He has 45 career touchdown passes, 19 rushing touchdowns, so we have seen some production. And if I was Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, I would take a young Justin Fields. I would draft another quarterback, maybe in the second or third round. Jackson Dart's one name maybe out there. And I think Aaron Rodgers has a year or two left, but instead of trying to put a Band-Aid on it, why not invest in Justin Fields, see where his upside is, and then bring in, like I said, another draft choice. They missed on Kenny Pickett, that happens, but I just don't see Aaron Rodgers being there more than a year or two. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I want to try to solidify this position for years to come.
Okay, and that makes sense. So Mike T doesn't necessarily love the Rodgers to Pittsburgh fit, but are there other places that you think Rodgers would fit?
He should have some options. The supply and demand is out there where Rodgers can probably get a job. It's more of a 1 to 2 year Band-Aid bridge situation as opposed to a savior like he was supposed to be with the Jets. I'll start with the Cleveland Browns because I go back to what sources have told me in the building that any veteran quarterback with starters experience the team is going to look at. So whether it's Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, they will all at least get an evaluation. And talking to scouts, they do believe Rodgers could be a good fit in that play-action game. He could still rip the ball over the middle. Las Vegas Raiders, they want to get it going now under Pete Carroll, so they could get a veteran and a draft pick. And then the New York Giants, the feeling is the same way. They're under a lot of pressure. So even if the Giants draft a quarterback high in the first round,
That Super Bowl loss stung, didn't it? After coming so far, watching the Chiefs fall short was frustrating. But here's the thing. Sometimes losses teach more than victories. And if there's one thing this game made clear, it's that Kansas City has work to do this offseason. It's a bit like deja vu, right? Remember Super Bowl 55? That painful game against the Buccaneers? The Chiefs couldn't protect Mahomes, and history just repeated itself. The offensive line struggled, and once again, it cost them on the biggest stage. So now Brett Veach and the front office have to respond. Free agency, the draft. Every move matters, and that's where you come in. What do you think was the biggest issue in the Super Bowl? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if we don't want to see this happen again, the solution starts with a clear off-season strategy. If there's one thing the Chiefs can't ignore this offseason, it's the offensive line. Trey Smith might be on his way out, and let's be honest, left tackle is a giant question mark. Protecting Mahomes has to be the #1 priority. But here's the problem. The free agent market isn't exactly loaded with elite tackles. Sure, there are some solid names out there, but are they really long-term solutions? That's where the draft comes in. Kansas City could go after a young talent, but finding a rookie who can immediately step in and protect Mahomes at a high level, easier said than done. There's also another route, making a trade for a proven veteran, but that comes with its own risks, especially with the team's cap situation. So what would you do? Would you take a chance on a veteran or bet on a young tackle in the draft? Vote in the comments. One thing's for sure, fixing the offensive line is just the beginning, because even with better protection, Mahomes needs more weapons to throw to. Let's talk about the wide receiver situation, because honestly, it's a mess. Rashee Rice showed promise, but now there are concerns. A potential suspension, injury recovery. Can the Chiefs really count on him as their WR1? Then there's Hollywood Brown. Could he return? And if so, would he be the answer? Some fans are also hyped about Xavier Worthy, a potential draft target. But here's the catch. This year's draft doesn't have a clear-cut elite WR like in past years. There are good options, but no guarantees. So what's the best move? Go all in on a big-name receiver, or focus on finding a reliable WR2 who fits the system? Because let's be real, Mahomes doesn't need a superstar, he needs someone who won't drop passes in the playoffs. What do you think? Drop a comment with your ideal WR target for the Chiefs. But here's another thing to consider. What happens if Travis Kelce decides to hang it up soon? The Chiefs' offense has always run through him, and replacing that kind of production isn't easy. Let's be honest, Chiefs Kingdom isn't ready for a future without Travis Kelce. But at 35, retirement isn't out of the shoe question. And if that happens, this offense will look completely different. So how do the Chiefs prepare? The draft has some interesting tight end prospects. Names like Elijah Arroyo and Mason Taylor stand out. But can any rookie really step in and replicate what Kelce does? Probably not. That's why adapting the offense might be just as important as finding his replacement. Could the Chiefs shift toward a more WR-heavy approach? Or would they rely on multiple tight ends to fill the gap? It's a huge question, and Veach has to start planning now. What's your take? Should the Chiefs draft a tight end early or adjust the scheme entirely? Let me know in the comments. Now, moving to the other side of the ball. The defense has its own problems to fix. L'Jarius Sneed's potential departure is a massive concern. He's been the backbone of the secondary, and replacing him won't be easy. The Chiefs could look to the draft. But here's the issue. This year's cornerback class doesn't have many first-round standouts. There are solid options on day 2, but is that enough for a Super Bowl contender? Free agency might be the safer bet, but elite corners don't come cheap. Veach has to decide. Invest big in a proven veteran or trust a young developing group. What would you do? If you're in Veach's shoes, would you prioritize offense or defense this offseason? Drop your take in the comments. One thing's for sure, the Chiefs have work to do. This offseason could define the next chapter of the